I lived like a car-free European in Cleveland for 4 years before moving to Europe, and it was a lot easier than you think. Not to mention it beat the soul-numbing monotony of doing the same drive back and forth over and over again, like some sort of Sisyphean punishment where you start to yearn for the sweet release of death brought on by the distracted drivers all around you who couldn't possibly wait 10 minutes to send a very important text message about the sale going on at Sephora, or something like that. Living car-free in Cleveland, I'd ride my bike or run along the towpath trail, tracing the Cuyahoga River, walk to the grocery store or Westside Market across the street, and take the bus or train whenever I wanted to get out of the neighborhood, which honestly wasn't even that often, because I had everything I could possibly want right here within a short walk. Even though I never missed having a car living here, people are still surprised to hear that I lived car-free, not in Chicago, not in New York, but right here in Cleveland, Ohio. For my European viewers, it's the, let's say, Dortmund of America. I'm Joe Bauer, a Clevelander who immigrated to Germany 10 years ago, and in this video I'm going to show you how I lived a car-free life in a car-dominated region.
For this nostalgic trip down memory lane, we stayed as close as possible to our last apartment, the Clifford House B&B, celebrating its 30th anniversary this year. It's like a number of homes in the neighborhood, built in the late 1800s, notably well before cars started taking up space with garages and surface parking lots. It makes the neighborhood incredibly well suited to living car-free.
All right, we are kicking off our car-free couple of days in Cleveland by doing something we did all the damn time when we lived here. That was go for a run.
My car-free journey in Cleveland started when I moved downtown from Chicago in 2011. After a couple of years marrying up and getting my graduate degree in Costa Rica, we came back to Cleveland, but this time to the Ohio City neighborhood, where access to urban bike and pedestrian trails was starting to grow.
So what we're running on right now is called the Red Line Greenway, and this is a project that started discussion when we lived here, and unfortunately it didn't come into fruition until after we left. And I believe only 2 stages have been done yet. There's a 3rd one coming. So right now, I forget what the distance is, I'll put it on the screen, however many miles and kilometers it is, but it's really cool. It's 2 of my favorite things, trails and trains. And even when we lived here 10 years ago, I didn't feel like I needed a car to, go for a nice run. We had trails then, but it's only gotten better since. And that's great. And just up ahead here, we've got the West 25th Rapid Station. This is, at least in the second 2 years of living in Cleveland, this is where I'd always get on the train and go downtown, outside the neighborhood, or to take it back and forth to the airport. But now this Red Line Greenway goes right past it.
Best of all, it connects seamlessly with the towpath trail that stretches nearly 100 miles south through Akron and Canton, Ohio. There were some missing links when we last lived here that have since been filled in, but I'm saving that for tomorrow's run. In the meantime, I'm on the lookout for some good eats, and we find it at Beet Jar, luring us in as if they could smell the Berliner vegetarian all over us. Crispy tofu rice bowl and a jackfruit shawarma sandwich, some of the best eats we've had in recent memory.
It's the sweetest. Nice.
Now we're just kind of wandering around the neighborhood, and we're in this little section of Ohio City called Hingetown that wasn't quite what it is now when we lived here 10 years ago, but now there's lots of restaurants, bars, cafes, massive new apartment complex, and it's really, really come together over the past 10 years. All right, now that we are sufficiently caffeinated, we are heading to Great Lakes Brewery for an early dinner. Great Lakes Brewery's been around since 1988. It was one of the first breweries out there, starting the craft beer boom of the early 2000s, 2010s. We spent a lot of time there when we were living in the neighborhood, so it's only appropriate that we head there now, have a beer before walking over to the ball game.
Gotta love a brewery in a walkable neighborhood. A bar with a parking lot just never made sense to me.
All right, now walking over to the ball game on the Lorraine Carnegie Bridge, we've got this nice separate bike and pedestrian path that's been here since we lived here. This is actually one of the first things that, in my opinion, kind of started to turn the tide and, adding a little bit more cycling and pedestrian infrastructure. So when we lived here, it was pretty common, to go walk across this if we want to go to the ball game, if it was a nice day and you want to go downtown. When the Cavs won the NBA championship 10 years ago, I actually made a video kind of envisioning what a car-free Cleveland would look like because, all the roads were blocked off for the parade. People were walking across this bridge. It was just absolutely packed with people. And so I think it was kind of a cool way for people to see, what would it be like if the city was more walkable, if more places were blocked off from cars and opened up for just pedestrians and cyclists. But you know, short of my car-free utopia, having stuff like this is pretty damn nice. And the view definitely doesn't suck either. Cleveland definitely has one of those skylines, you know, not a big muscly skyline like in Chicago, but it still has a skyline that makes me think like, yo, this is a city. It's a city with a soul. It's got history. And whenever I see it, I just love it.
I'm obviously biased here, but the Guardians have the best ballpark in baseball, hands down. And one of the reasons I love going to games is because a good baseball stadium kind of functions like a mini walkable city. You're encouraged to walk around and explore without having to press the big button to cross the street. It's not cars and pedestrians fighting for space. Here, everyone is a pedestrian, and people seem a lot happier for it. Of course, it doesn't hurt when the good guys are winning.
I don't care if I ever get back for its root for the Guardians. If they don't win, it's a shame. Or it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out at the old ball game.
So this field view bullpen thing is newish, and we just got access. Down to just one more strike.
Come on, up!
Swing and a miss. Book it. We win. Alrighty, game is over. We won. Huzzah. Now walking back over the bridge from whence we came into Ohio City.
Another morning, and I'm back on the trails to see just how some of the missing gaps have been filled in since we left.
Something I wanted to pause my run real quick to say is that if you've watched my videos, you know that I complain a lot about how much of the natural landscape we've generally paved over. This is an especially large problem in the United States. But what I love about these trails in Cleveland is that you are surrounded by generally untouched nature. Of course, you see the city behind there, but lots of greenery. I think we really underestimate how important it is to see this stuff, to touch grass, as the kids say, in your everyday lives. I mean, honest to pup, these trails, separated and away from cars, are a lot nicer than some of the stuff that I get access to every day in Berlin and a lot of parts of Europe. I'm just saying. I mean, come on, sports fans, this is just objectively so much nicer than driving. For folks either living in the suburbs or in the city, couldn't you just imagine how much nicer it'd be to get around, go to work, biking on something like this or walking on a sound, as opposed to driving on a highway, surrounded by idiots constantly flirting with decks because they're texting and driving. Then there's construction and traffic, not to mention all the environmental damage that does to the entire region. We get this, fresh air, greenery, everybody that passes smiled and waved. Come on, what's not to love? So right now we're kind of bopping around the West Side Market, which is right across the street from where we used to live. A lot of times people, when they found out we lived car-free in Cleveland, they'd get horrified and wonder, where do you get your groceries? It was actually pretty easy and a lot more accessible than I feel like it is in the suburbs and exurbs. We had a grocery store right behind our apartment. That was kind of Dave's Market. It's kind of like your typical, you know, big grocery store. And then here we had the public market, the West Side Market, you know, for anything special. How do you get to work? What do you do in the winter? How do you get your groceries? These are just some of the perplexed questions I would get time and time again during my 4 years of living car-free in Cleveland. In this video, I've honestly only barely scratched the surface of what's possible without a car in Cleveland. And not just what's possible, but how being car-free makes living in the city even more enjoyable. Like you're actually part of the neighborhoods and experiencing them, rather than watching it all whiz by from the car window, disconnected from your surroundings while encased in a hunk of metal. Americans want this. The data shows it. They don't want to be shackled to a 2-ton financial albatross, stuck in traffic while dodging distracted drivers in the throes of a seemingly never-ending orange barrel season. They want to walk to the deli, hop on a train, and hit the trails. So whether you're visiting or planting some roots, I'm here to tell you that you can do all of that and more right here in the great city of Cleveland.